All right. Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday. We are live streaming. We got the one and only Dion from Dion Talk Financial Freedom and Coach Massey from Lead Pray HoDL. So, good morning, fellas.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're just sorry. We're just trying to get situated. Link everyone's channels. Somehow my Wi-Fi wouldn't connect by the Ethernet, so I'm streaming Wi-Fi. But yeah, this is gonna be a fun one. So Dion brought up this topic of kind of how to start investing when you don't have money. So is this something that's been on the top of the mind for you right now, Dion?
Well, you have me on the channel with somebody who invests in crypto and I invest in real estate. So, how do you have a topic that applies to all investors, whether they choose stocks, want to start and grow a business, want to just have a better financial future, want to invest in real estate? It's universal. And how you get started in all of them are the steps that you take before you own an asset. And so, I thought that would be a good thing for me, you, and Coach to go over.
All right. And so Nick, what is your thoughts on this topic that Dion brought up?
I think it's a great topic because we're basically saying, what do you do when you start from zero? When you have no, understanding, no knowledge, you just hear of things like real estate, you hear of things of Bitcoin, and what do you do? And I think that's a question that a lot of people ask, especially new investors. And I love the fact Dave Ramsey has baby steps. I love the fact that Michael Zuber has his steps for his one rental at a time. And so today we're going to go over a few things for real estate. We're going to go over some for Bitcoin, and maybe we'll get somebody off zero today, and that'd be pretty cool. And zero isn't just monetary. There's going to be many different ways to get off zero, and I think that's what we're going to talk about today.
I love that. Before we move along, I know a lot of people will probably be tuning in from Dion's channel, so just don't forget. Please stop by my channel and Nick's channel and subscribe, and you can always hop back to Dion's. But I do see old guy REI stopping by, and I just want to wish him a happy birthday. I know today is his birthday. I'm not sure how young he is, but happy birthday out there, Frank, and keeping the community together. So Dion, how would you want to start off? Your points of view on this.
So, when we're starting off from zero, a lot of us think of that. That's the way we see it. We go from zero and then we build. But most people wake up like they have two lives in finances when it comes to money, and they realize the second life starts when you realize you only have one. And so people wake up one day and they're usually in bad debt. They've racked up credit card debt. They've taken out car loans or loans for RVs or CDUs or student loans or something where they're actually starting out less than zero. And so the rule number one, stop digging, right? Stop creating bad debt. Stop justifying you work hard, you should enjoy now. You can borrow from your future self. You can do things on credit cards and pay it off in the future, or get it now, pay later, buy now, pay later. All of those things I would initially stop. One of the mistakes I saw, I tried to clarify with several people at the first one rental at a time event, is I was doing videos like I'm going to be doing this year. This year I'll actually have a room for doing it. And I was asking people, this kind of standard questions. Where do you live? What do you want to invest in? Where do you want to invest? What's your portfolio look like today? So we can have a first year versus fifth year comparison at some point. And there were a lot of people who said, well, I don't have a portfolio yet. And I don't think people realize what a portfolio is. So I would ask follow-up questions. What's your credit score? How much work, time, energy, and effort have you put into improving that? What is your actual income? Right? Are you absolutely don't have a job, or do you have income? Okay, out of that job, how much can you save? You have a portfolio that might not be assets or cash flowing assets yet, but the education you take for yourself, that becomes an asset later. The credit score can become an asset later. Your job, if you actually take a look at your job through the lens of, I want a better financial future, you might decide if climbing the corporate ladder is the right way to go, or if the overtime in your current position is more beneficial, or if changing companies or changing careers might actually have a better impact. But you don't know that until you sit down and go, okay, here's my portfolio. How do I tweak it to make it better?
So Nick, you've been posting on social media. This is something new for you. Have you had a lot of people maybe reach out to you and ask you how to get started?
Well, as you know, right now it seems like real estate or Bitcoin or any asset, a lot of people are like kind of seeing the big mountain instead of the next step. So they see it as like it's unaffordable. I'm too far behind. It's too late. And all those things. And they find themselves talking themselves out of success. That's the one of the biggest things. I just finished one of the David Goggins books, Can't Hurt Me. And he talks about a callous mind, but he also talks about even friends and family. They could be actually detrimental to your success. You don't want to go into real estate, termites, tenants, the whole nine. You don't want to go into Bitcoin. It's magic internet money, right? You don't want to do that. And guess what? If either of us did this, we want to be millionaires. You know what I mean? We'd be still stuck on zero, or like Dion said, in negative debt. You know, and wondering what should we do? Am I going to work for 40 years? And I understand that Kiyosaki is kind of like a crazy man to a lot of people. But if you read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, when he wants to get an idea down, he is a really intelligent man. And that book really tells you that, you don't want to work for 40 years, just to maybe die at the end. I had recently a teacher at my campus pass away this summer, and she was 1 year away from retirement. Oh man, broke my heart. She's a wonderful lady. But that's the problem. Too many times we're stuck in the hole, right? That quote that he's saying is, when you find yourself in a hole, just stop digging. Well, one of the things that I thought of a quote as well that's very famous is, the only place that success comes before work is in the dictionary. So you're going to have to do work, and work could be many different ways. But one of the things you have to do is learn more about the topic. And thank God we're in a generation where you could go on YouTube and find someone like myself for Bitcoin, or Dion, or all the videos that Mark's doing for his financial firefighter channel. And you can learn for free. And I would say one of the first things you need to do is start learning. You know what I mean? You have to start learning, because as you learn and grow, and I could say this because I've watched Dion's channel and Zuber's, and I did rentals and I did properties, and I wouldn't have did it without those guys, to be honest with you. I did watch Brandon Turner as well, and Bigger Pockets. But these people are the ones you want to get voices that are positive in your head. And work starts with learning, I believe. Maybe that's the teacher in myself, but that's my first step, I believe. You got to read the books, you got to watch the channels, and you got to get in the rooms with people that have done it before, right? You want to take financial advice from a broke person. You want to take health advice from a fat person, you know what I mean? And so on. So I think too many people are listening to their cousin that, bro, your cousin's broke. Don't talk to you. Even Michael Zuber talks about fire your friends, right? It sounds super harsh. I totally understand. But there is some truth to that, because sometimes they're really dragging you down. They're hurting you, and they want to see you stuck. I lost my dad 7 years ago now. And they say one of the reasons why that's heartbreaking is because, like, that's the one man in your life that actually wants to see you do better than him. And that's why it's so hard, because you lose that person. Well, one thing I found in this community is, like, we want to see each other succeed. We want you to grow. That's why there's a channel. You don't get tons of money. I haven't made a penny, you know what I mean? But I want people to get off zero and start learning. So that's my first step, is just start learning first. And I have more, but I don't want to talk too long.
I do want to bring up quickly, though. I like how you mentioned Kiyosaki, and I just want to say, Dion, I think people enjoyed you kind of calling Matt Dion, Kiyosaki 2.0 in your most recent one of your live or videos with Zuber and or the Three Amigos, but people did enjoy that. But I definitely relate to the kind of fire your friends or audit your network. I think I always talk about it. That is definitely the hardest place for me, especially in the firehouse. And you guys talk about learning still yet and questioning, always questioning things. And even just yesterday, I actually spoke with ERS, the retirement system, and same thing. They're saying, so many people don't ever call, confirm things. It's all hearsay, right? You hear other firefighters talk about, oh, all you got to do is get to this year and this percentage, and you get this much medical and this and that. So we hear all these things, but we don't ever confirm it. So actually, I did speak with them yesterday, got some things or validated that my confirmations were correct. But even they mentioned that sometimes people don't call and it messes them up. Like someone they said retired at 14 years and 11 months when they thought they had 15 years. So then by retiring 1 month early, they didn't collect their medical benefits. And all they had to do was call in and find out. But things like that, right? So Dion, where do you want to question us, or where do you want to push us on this? Because that's what I'm waiting for.
So I'll give you an example to each of you, and then I'll cover the example myself. So Nick, you're talking with a coworker, right? So this isn't one of your students. You don't have to be apolitical. You can actually have an opinion. And they say, I see that you're investing. It seems like it's going really well for you. I would love to invest. I don't have any money. What do I do?
Yeah. Okay, so the first thing I would talk about is you got to start with the budget, because I would cut all the things that you don't need out. For instance, just the memberships alone. If you look on your phone and you look at subscription services and everything like that, you could save yourself hundreds of dollars, literally just off membership subscriptions. Netflix, Hulu, Disney, ESPN, Max, HBO, your magazines, whatever you got. So my first thing to get off zero is like, look at the things you could cut out. Cut out the nonsense, cut out the noise. You know what I mean? And we're not even at like, you know, you can't have your $5 coffee or anything like that yet. That what's his name? I can't iced coffee. You know what I'm talking about. Grant, yeah. So, but just right there alone, I think you could already cut out hundreds of dollars out of your budget. And from there, you can already start dollar cost averaging, and you haven't done anything to make more money yet. You just literally cut things out. So that would be my first step.
Okay. Mark, basically same question. You're talking with a coworker or somebody who works in a similar field. So you don't, maybe they're not in your firehouse. So you don't have to worry about them talking to your boss. And they say, you're investing, you own properties. I would like to do that too. I don't have any money. How do I get started?
I would tell them that they really just have to audit their surroundings. And I mean, I know that a lot of people in the firehouse are still doing well, successfully from their paycheck, from their job. But is that the lifestyle you want of working 25, 30 years, relying on that pension? And I think the last, 5 to 7 years, I think really just opened my eyes to how risky that is. For example, I could reference something just happened a couple weeks ago. There was a guy one of our guys who could retire. He was just working, pounding the overtime, getting that extra high 3, but he fell off the truck, and he's currently paralyzed right now from his nipples down. And he got flown out to Colorado seeking extra treatment, but now that's impacted the rest of his life basically. But yeah, to me, it's just really audit your surrounding and really change your mindset, and realize that you can do it in 10 years. If you happen to want to work 25 years in the firehouse still yet, that's great. But put yourself in a position where if you get hurt, if something happens, life changes, you can always walk away. But I definitely think auditing your surrounding and for Hawaii, I mean, this might relate a little bit more to Hawaii, but I think just having hope still yet. I think a lot of guys I see, they see the prices of homes and they just feel they've given up hope, and it's just constantly taking the next trip or buying the next new truck. And it's like, I'm never going to own a home here, so I'm just going to live for the moment. What would be your place that you would start, Dion? I know you probably go to a lot of meetups, and there's probably a lot of people that do reach out to you. They've probably read your book, so they probably know where you're coming from. But how would you kind of sum it up?
So there's a teaching strategy that I would like to use, where it's you give enough information to bring somebody to the point where they make a decision about your information, and then you give it to them. Like they've come to the conclusion before you gave it. So Nick, what do you think I do when somebody comes to me and says, hey, Dion, you have a YouTube channel, you quit your job, you wrote a book, investing is obviously working for you. I would like to invest. I would like to start, but I don't have any money. What do you think I do?
Well, I think you would probably find out more about them, get to know them better.
Build a baseline. So everyone that's watching now who's ever communicated with me or been in a situation where we've had a conversation, I want you to think about the first hour of us talking. Mm-hmm. I probably said 15 words. You need to build a baseline of when the response is, here's how you can eliminate expenses, or now that feels like an attack. You're saying you've made mistakes. Here's how you fix them, right? Instead of going, well, let's talk about your finances. Tell me about your job. How much do you make there? What are the advancements that are going to happen to it? Do you hate it so much you're trying to quit quickly? Asking questions that are open-ended, right? Don't ask a question that gives you a yes or no answer. Do you like your job? Yes or no? What are the 3 things about your job that make you want to quit the most? Like an open-ended question, getting them talking. Because the reason you need a baseline is so that when you're talking to a friend or a family member or somebody you just met, you have to understand how they communicate so that when you're talking later in this conversation, you can see how they're acting. If they lean back and cross their arms, that's defensive. You're offending them. If they make a frowny face, but they're still leaning forward, they still have their arms open, it means you're challenging their mind, and their mind is saying, that makes sense. It's against what I think, but now that you're bringing them. So a lot of times people will stop talking when they see the face get angry, but that means you're kind of winning the conversation as far as they're coming along with you because they came to you for advice and you want to help. You don't want to just say, I did everything right, you're doing everything wrong, here's how you do it, which is what most of my friends and family think I would do. But when I meet somebody, it's ask a bunch of questions to get a really good baseline. So I have the people that go to diontalk.com, book an hour. The first thing I do is send a bunch of questions. Based on what I know from our interactions in the past, it'll be, where do you live? What do you want to invest in? What are your goals? What's holding you back, right? Kind of get that baseline just through emails before we even talk to each other. So that when we're talking, I can go to the next phase, which if you're in my course, there's a couple people in the chat. We just went over this in the course last week. The next phase is to make a direct accusatory statement. And this is right out of the Reed interview and interrogation techniques from law enforcement. But the statement, once you have a baseline, once you understand enough about this person to go, okay, maybe it's cost cutting, maybe it's the job change, maybe it's the relationship change. So you know how you're going to direct the conversation. Then it's, why do you want financial freedom? Like, give me the reason so I can say throughout the rest of this conversation, that's my direct accusatory statement. You said you wanted to retire your mom. So you said there's no way in the world you can ever have a roommate. Okay, retiring your mom's not worth you having a roommate. So you can reference whatever you're bringing up towards their statement as to why this matters to them. When somebody says, I want to invest because you're successful about it, maybe they want to retire, maybe they want to travel, maybe they want whatever it is to like me, it was not become a financial burden to my kids when I'm too old to work. Unless we know what's driving them, we can actually talk them out of what would be in their best interest. If we tell somebody, and I'll just go off of the things that you guys said. Mark, you really highlighted the benefits of working here a long time are really good, but what happens if you don't make it? So we can reference the person that's like, oh, I've been in the military 15 years, so I'm just going to make 20 years and I'll be set. Well, what if you can't reenlist at 17 years? Your billet's full. There's no reenlistment bonuses. They don't want your rank, or you don't make rank in time. So we can go this is what happens if you don't get your goal. And Nick, you said, we can look at, because that was my first thing to talk about too. Once I have a baseline, is, well, how do we, increase not our income, but the amount of money we have left? And it can be, I'm the thick skin guy. Once I have a baseline, the questions are pretty rough. People say, I don't have money to start. I'll go, okay, do you have a Spotify? Do you have a Netflix? Do you have HBO Max? All right, bullshit. I'll call you one. You have plenty of money to invest. You're making bad choices, but I can't start with that, because that just stops the conversation. So when somebody comes to you, or a viewer is watching this right now, and they should sit down and take notes, because remember, you can remember 3 things. As soon as you hear a 4th, you lose all of them. You don't just lose the 4th. But when you want to think about having a better financial future, build a baseline for yourself. What are your current assets? What is your credit score? How much do you make? Is changing companies or changing careers or changing jobs the way to go? Is it overtime or a promotion? You don't know until you write down these things. It's like when somebody comes up with an argument and you say, if you can't write it down, it's based on emotion. But if you can write it down, now it's articulable. You can change it or adjust it. What's your baseline if you're just starting out right now? Before you get into the how and which asset class and all the things that we can do differently, understand where you're at now in a way that you can actually write down.
Yeah, I got a comment for that. So I'm gonna be you how you are for everyone else. So that's fine. Maybe it's my master's degree, maybe it's my experience. But so I agree with the premise of what you're saying, 1,000%. If I was talking them into their goals, but I am not, and I am not into wasting time, because time cannot be recycled. So just like any team, I've coached championships, I've coached NBA pro players, anything I do, I don't want to waste my time or theirs. And if you ever watch the movie National Treasure, Captain Wickwicki says, no sacrifice, no reward. So let's see if you have any toughness at all right at the beginning, so I don't waste my time. And I believe that people, Bitcoin is volatile. It could be scary. Real estate, high numbers. You've never done it. Tenant problems. I need a pool so my dog could jump in it. You know what I mean? Like I literally remember getting that one. But if you don't have toughness, you don't have a chance to survive, because why? The first 5 years suck. And let me just stop you right now and save time. So I do agree with what he's saying. And I do understand getting on their level. So it's not that I disagree. I just want to save me and them time. Come back to me when you're ready, because if I ask you to cut out some simple things like Netflix or Hulu and you can't handle that, you've already wasted my time. So that's where the conversation ends. So I totally agree with them 100%. But I do have another perspective that will save me and you time as a coach myself. Look, are we here to do things or are we here not? And I learned from people through coaching. The first we had tryouts, they were hard. I wanted to see who's going to quit because I want to build champions. And then next, people don't like any hard challenges. They want to quit. They want to run away. And I've had some kids quit the team before, really talented. But you know what? They wanted me to talk them into it. And in my experience, anytime I got to their level and I talked them into it and the whole nine, they ended up quitting anyways. So my experience, which is different than obviously everyone else's, is I am not going to talk you into anything, because unless you make a cognitive decision to be intentional with your commitments, you will never achieve your goals. So I hope that makes sense.
It does. And it's okay for us to disagree. We're kind of supposed to. Otherwise, it's an echo chamber, right? There should be just one person here. So you should have a different point of view. Are you familiar with the analogy of the sports ball stadium
Would you say that?
The amigos use?
Yeah.
So I'm in the parking lot where the tailgate party's happening.
Right.
You're like lumberjack. When you're ready, you're on the gridiron. Let's go. Here's the tools. Here's the strategies. This is how you do it. You've already gone through the filter of, are you going to even try? I'm in the parking lot finding the people that don't know what's possible, that are looking at all of the Crash Bro videos, the doom, gloom, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that spreads like wildfire, and saying, there's a different way. Once you understand if their motivation is strong enough, and if they might have a different mindset, I think the argument is better on the stadium field if you know what that person needs to hear.
I understand. I totally understand all three of what make the Three Amigos great as well. So I totally get that. I think sometimes you're still polite, but you're saying something that is a challenge to them. And so like I never try to discourage, but I'm not gonna, by me saying, hey, here's some things without even any new job, without anything additional. Can you sacrifice Hulu, Netflix, and some apps? Maybe even get a better insurance premium, whatever. And then you don't have to do really anything. You just went without a couple little things, and you could buy Bitcoin. And I think I want to balance the both, you know what I mean? Where I want to take serious people on and change their lives. And I also don't want to discourage anybody that's willing to want to do it. So trying to find the balance is the most important thing. So I totally understand what you're saying. And I try to say it correctly. Hopefully I'm not like, bro, I don't want to go Grant Cardone. You know what I mean? And you're just like, I can't stand Grant Cardone, but that's a whole other story. But I want to be someone that it's approachable, but I'm not going to waste your time or mine. I'm going to tell you, you could do hard things and it will be hard. But if you're not willing to do that, if you're not willing to commit it, because everybody wants to be rich and everyone wants the good part of owning real estate after the 5 years, but can you do the 5 years? Can you do the volatility of Bitcoin down? And hopefully I could do that balance. That's my goal. And that's what I love also admire about Dion is he does get to know you. He's an open door and he will help anybody and try to lift them up. And that's something I admire, even with Mark.
Roadhouse rules.
I was actually
nice.
I was gonna
happy days. Right.
I was gonna mention though. Wayne brought it up. He said you can't drink all day if you don't start early. So I did see that. So I was like checking. What time is it there again? Or where are you? Or were you in diving? You said right.
No, I was diving this morning. Yeah.
Oh, this morning.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
I don't like to dive in Washington, and now it's getting late in the year.
Oh, okay.
Might be the last time in the water here.
Ah,
That'd be
okay.
pretty cold, huh?
Yeah, and so I like to dive with almost no wetsuit, just your BC basically.
Oh, gotcha.
And here it's dry suit, and that's not comfortable.
Yeah.
So for a lazy guy, that's too much to do.
Flabulous Mama says, "Good morning. I feel that sometimes people like to project their insecurities onto us by saying you don't want to, but in reality, it's them, not us, that want to." I did see Trade Better had a nice comment. Where did Harrison's one go? He says, "I'm not a fan." Well, he said, "I'm not a fan of facts because facts can change. However, my opinions will never change." Stephen Colbert. Yeah.
I knew whoever said that sounded vaccinated.
Yeah. And Hyder says, "Investing is incredibly personal. So too is advice and professing very situational." And he does say naked diving is nice.
Heading to Thailand for the winter.
Okay.
The idea is live the life people would like. I think is more important than having good sound bites. I think if you have good sound bites, the catchy phrase or the whatever that makes people want to follow you or do what you do. And I'm not talking YouTube University. I'm talking in your real life. Like I've got friends that said when I bought the first couple of rentals, they were like, "You're stupid. Why would you do that? You're the president of a company. You're moving into a duplex again. You're buying another small multifamily. Why don't you have a farm or a ranch or whatever you talk about?" And then when you walk away from the job and you start traveling, all of a sudden they start reaching out and going, how did you do that? Why is it this way now? And that never would have happened, no matter how compelling, or like Nick said, I'm not in the convincing business. I'm not trying to talk somebody into this. But once you show this is a life that's possible, the right people will start to reach out.
Yeah,
I think. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe how we model our lives is very important to people. They see, do we keep our words? Do we keep our commitments? And do we try hard things? Even in Bitcoin, obviously, everyone would love to clown me. You know what I mean? Oh, Bitcoin's magic internet money. Oh, it's went down. Look at it. It's, stupid. You sold your houses, the whole nine. It's all good. And even now, it drops $5,000. I get a text from people, sell, every single time. And it just makes me laugh because you want to normally see your friends succeed. And for some reason, like I said, with my analogy with my dad and passing away, a lot of people don't want to see you succeed. But when you are modeling the right character, the right person, I believe you're kind of like a tree analogy, where people are going to want to come find shade under you and with you when the weather gets really bad. And I've noticed that when people are broke, when people are hurting, and when people are whatever, they're going to come talk to me about, whatever it is. It could be religion, it could be relationships, it could be money, but it could just be friendship, because it's not judgment to listen. And then I ask, would you like my advice? Would you like my thoughts? And if sometimes they don't want it, no. My wife sometimes don't want it, right? She wants to be heard and listened to and different. So everyone's different. But I think even with investing, we're modeling. And that's what I love about the videos from Dion and others is like, I think Mike had like, I lost 160 grand, you know what I mean? And there's a video like that happens. I'm down $100,000 this week alone. I'll be honest. Whatever, you know what I mean? It goes up, it goes down. But these things are reality. So if you can't handle some challenges, some volatility, some tough tenants, some tough scenarios where, like I had the gas line break on one of my first purchases, it's like things happen. And who are you going to go to? I know what I did. I went to Dion on Tuesdays and asked him questions. Hey, Dion, what do you do when the gas line breaks at midnight and you have a ADU connected to the same thing? Do you like give them a hotel, or you know what I mean? And you just ask questions. He was my shade during that time.
They haven't done the study yet, so it's coming soon, hopefully in the next few years. But I believe Bitcoin or crypto is going to be a lot like stocks. They did the study on stocks, and the highest performing stock accounts belong to people who forgot they had them.
Yeah.
The second highest performing or no, the first
They
one,
died.
the people who died, then the people who forgot they had them, and then the third highest performing belonged to a cat named Orlando, who they just watched which keyboard he walked on and invested that way. So that fear of, oh, you got to sell now, or you're tracking it now, you're down 100,000, you better sell, or you're going to be down 200,000. Those are the people who won't make it.
Wayne Miller, commenting from Dion's channel, says, some of my friends and family thought I was nuts for not having cable and keeping my heat set to 62. And then he says, I have cable and heat now. I'm really moving up.
There were years where I didn't have cable, and we at my house we lived off of the phrase, if you cut your own wood, it heats you twice.
That's nice. You know, we were talking about a new truck. You talked about that. I'm looking for a truck, right? I've been trying to get the dealerships to give me a good price.
EMC.
Dealerships suck because when you're smarter than them, they really suck because they're trying to like, well, this paint doesn't, sap doesn't hurt, just nonsense. But anyways, but I drove the same car for 20 years. I still have it. And like I said, no sacrifice, no reward. And that's what we're here to talk, those little next steps. I even have one more step that I wanted to mention. It's like, we talked about memberships and subscriptions, maybe downgrading some insurances or, making a higher premium so that it's because you're never going to use it when you're in rentals anyways. You're probably going to pay it out yourself, a lot of times, depending on the situation. But another thing is like big windfalls of money, tax refunds, work bonuses, gifts. I would definitely look into that for buying more Bitcoin. You could literally take those windfalls, dollar cost average at $100 a day or whatever you want to do. Everyone's money is different, but that's another way that you did not do anything. You just got your tax money back, or you know what I mean? You got, whatever. And you're able again to buy more Bitcoin. Cause I could keep talking about it all day, how you could keep buying more Bitcoin. And we haven't even got to anything hard yet. There's even a credit card called Gemini. They give you Bitcoin rewards. So just using your normal credit card, you could get Bitcoin from it. So I gave 3 ways so far, but I just wanted to mention that, like, you're here for us. We're trying to get you to get off zero because we believe in you, and we're sacrificing our time, which can't be recycled, because we care about you.
So rough estimate, how much do you think you've made off of crypto in the last 5 years?
Over $1 million.
Okay. So like myself, you have survivor's bias. You have survivor's bias, like I do with real estate. So whenever the conversation is going to come up, you're going to say, look at the benefits from buying this. Whenever the conversation comes up with me, I usually go with, after I have a baseline and I talk about, here's the streaming services, I just name a few before I say, that's probably why you're broke. I'll ask about house hacking. I'll say, how many people moved out of their house when they left their house when they were 18, moved in a place with roommates? But now that you have the mortgage, like you were totally fine with roommates and you helping pay someone else's mortgage, but you don't want anybody to help you pay your mortgage. And then so roommates are off the table for most people if they're in a relationship or if they have kids. So then what about the people who go out and buy a house? I talked about this in a video recently. Friends Ann and Sam just closed on a duplex, right? They're probably in their late 20s, early 30s. And they could go out and buy a house just like anybody else, be a part of the American dream, like white picket fence, raise kids, all that. Instead, they said, I'm going to buy a duplex. It's no different than living in an apartment, except I get to screen the neighbors.
Yep.
They might in the future decide that they're crypto investors or they're stock investors. But if you reduce or eliminate your largest expense, that's my survivor's bias, is my life changed as soon as I didn't have a housing payment. Like I was like, wow, this is a lot of money. And it wasn't even a lot of money. It was like $1,200 a month increased into what I could save. Life-changing. Yeah. So I'll have that same conversational direction if the question comes up. How do I get started? Well, you ever plan on buying a house? Yeah, that's stupid. Have your assets buy a house in the future because it's a massive liability. My video that's coming out either Tuesday or Thursday this week is about broke millionaires and how there's so many millionaires in the United States. It's like 24 million millionaires. It's just under that. As long as you include the equity in their house. Drops down to like 6 million when you take only the people who have liquid assets, cash flowing, that aren't their house. Buying a house before you own assets, to me, is a huge mistake. It's what makes people work another 10 or 15 years than they have to.
Unless you're hacking, is what you're saying.
With a house hack, yeah. If you can buy a house with an ADU or house and rent out rooms, or all the way up to a fourplex with that 30-year fixed rate debt, your first couple of years of house ownership, people say, I'm going to buy a starter home, 2 or 3 bedrooms, and then later we'll buy the big one when we have the kids. Instead of that, why don't, like in our area, people say, well, it's $600,000 or $700,000 for a duplex. That's ridiculous. It's too expensive. A house in my area is $600,000 or $700,000 too. So it's no different. They're just choosing 2 units instead of 1.
Yeah, I find that hard myself because that premise, your house is your largest expense. So I could easily just pay cash for the rest of my house, and it's like, then I could just invest all of that as well. Now I understand the numbers. I understand leverage. I understand my rate, 2.375. So I'm not doing it. I get it. But so it's always that tough dilemma though. I imagine you're making a lot of money. Obviously you share that. And, you're thinking about buying, you just said recently, I believe. So it's like, have you been challenged by paying off those houses? And so you don't have any more to manage? Because I know you're the lazy investor, your word, not mine. But it's like, I imagine you got to be battling a little bit like, you know what, I could do less and make more.
I've had people bring that up often, and I would lose asset protection, lever depreciation, lever depreciation. I did a whiteboard video. If I focused and paid off all of my properties, I would work for another 9 years and increase my cash flow every month by $5,000. Currently, it's 4 times what I need. I can add another 5,000 that I wouldn't notice if I worked for 9 more years. So, yeah, I love it when that comes up too. But when you say you have a house with a nice low interest rate, right? And you have money to invest. So you're not the person we're talking to.
Oh, no,
we're talking to the person that says, I would love to start investing. I don't have any money. Great. Do you plan on buying a house? There's your mistake. Even Michael Zuber says the biggest mistake he's made in all of his investing is that he didn't house hack. Yeah. That it would have sped up the 15 years down to like 10 or less. Yeah. So it isn't the only answer. It's like yours is going to be, what extra money can you come up with? Like search the couch cushions, right? Whatever it is, eliminate the streaming services, increase the income, put it in Bitcoin. Survivor's bias. Mine is life changed when I started house hacking. So neither one of us is right. We're both right for us.
Well, yeah, and to buy the duplex costs a lot of money, but you could dollar cost average into Bitcoin with $5.
But that person's going to buy a house, and buying the duplex is easier than buying the house. Because some lenders will look at the rental income.
Yeah. But to get off the ground to afford a house, you need great credit. You need a lot of things to go your way. It's not just you go buy a house. The same thing for Bitcoin. You could throw $5 in it and you could already start gaining on it. But at the same time, that's what I love about the duplexes, the house hacking, the properties. Again, side gigs, overtime, rental property. I mean, for me, I don't know how Dion doesn't have a property called Bitcoin and he's not putting all the cash flow on Bitcoin every month. You know what I mean? So those are things you could do real quick to start really, monetizing what you already have. So I totally understand what you're saying though. And I'm not paying off my house. I even use the HELOC to just continue to leverage and build, but it just sometimes, as maybe I'm the lazy Bitcoin investor soon, you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm just glad to do it.
Well, a paid off Bitcoin is huge. It's nice.
Oh,
right. A paid off house to me is a liability. I don't want one. It's bad. The only ones I lose sleep over are my 2 that are paid off. They're financially a mistake. They're not protected. I'm not gaining any more than what I have invested in them. I'm only depreciating what I have invested in them. So it's a huge negative to have it paid off.
Would you consider it paid off with a HELOC on it, even if you didn't use the HELOC? Like, how would you feel about that?
So a HELOC can be a useful strategy if you're going to use it to grow the portfolio. The 2 times I think a HELOC is a mistake is the people in 2007 and 6 that said, hey, home prices keep going up. I can go buy an RV or take a massive, $20,000 vacation by adding this HELOC to my house. Or it's just my opinion, dummies who go, I have credit card debt, I have student loans, I have car payments, I'm going to back it all up with a HELOC. So you take unsecured debt and back it with an asset. I wouldn't do that either. And then the really bad mistake is when people go, I don't need to have reserves, I have a HELOC. Because the economic event that causes you to need the HELOC funds is going to be the economic event that makes the bank turn it off.
Well, I think I was more like, even if you let's say you took out a HELOC and you weren't using it, but you just had it for like a somewhat asset protection, like how would you feel about that with a paid off property and a line of
Well,
credit.
you're not adding to the levered appreciation. You're not adding to the levered depreciation, so you still lose those benefits. You're only gaining appreciation and depreciation on what you have invested, even though you could borrow it back out.
Yeah. With that being said, too, again, going by the leverage, and we don't have a thing any to show, you know what I mean, a chalkboard or a whiteboard or whatever you want to call it, but they're bank accounts. So if you have $1 million house and you take 500,000 to buy another house, you still have the $1 million, but now you have two houses. And people are not understanding that. Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, it doesn't matter. They're just different accounts. And people get too caught up on, well, a paid off house or my, no. Now you're spreading out the bank accounts and you're building money and getting richer. But again, those aren't for new investors, but they could be, you know what I mean? If you do have asset money, if you have a paid off house, and I'm not telling you to do anything your spouse or whatever wouldn't want you to do, but all you're doing is moving bank accounts, and it's really looked at the wrong way, I think, personally. And HELOCs are short-term use. You're going to refi, pay it off, something like that. You know, if you're using it for like a full blown, going to have double the loans for the whole time, you're in trouble.
Jacek is tuning in from Jersey, but he says not many people truly want you to succeed in today's society. That's why it's important to find your tribe, like the ORAC community. So he'll be in Vegas, so he's excited for his first time there. I did say Native to Earth is here, coming in from Dion's channel. I think he just joined the Air Force, I believe. I think he's on the Big Island. He's trying to house hack, but he says, yeah, he's in, you can allocate money from your rentals to buy Bitcoin. Best of both worlds.
I'm a fan of Charlie Munger more than Warren Buffett. And one of the things Warren Buffett always harped on was be diversified. And Charlie Munger says, no, focus on one asset class until you become wealthy and then diversify to protect the wealth. So I needed for the first 10 years, every penny for the next rental. And diversifying into any other asset would have had me working longer. Now that I'm financially free, I think so. Net worth is it's not at 4 million yet, but when I pass the 5 million mark, I'll probably do 1% into Bitcoin, 1% into stocks. I recently did 1% into Tesla because they went on sale because of the protests, but I'm not a stock guy. So I didn't really plan on doing that. I only did it because that was a black swan event. I don't think it's going to happen again. I hope it doesn't happen again. Once your wealth is enough, I think, you know, Nick, once you have $5 or $10 million in net worth, you might go, okay, Bitcoin's great, but this volatility is a little frustrating. Let me take some of that and put it in stable cash flow items.
Yeah, I know for me, I love Bitcoin, you know, but I also like assets, and I'm okay with some diversity. I totally agree with you. Get rich in your niche, especially what you already mastered. You put in your 1,000 hours. I think you need to put in 1,000 hours of anything to be great at it. That's what I've always taught as a coach on the basketball floor, or not. But yeah, so I agree with all that. And I actually plan on getting real estate again. I'm going to definitely take my covered call money that I do, my cash flow. I'm putting it to the side already. And I'm going to be buying another property. I'm going to move to Charlotte, as I talked to Mark one day, and I'm going to be looking out there for good properties. I actually saw an awesome one that I was thinking about turning into a wedding venue. It had a big barn and so on. And I was like, you know what? But I don't know it enough yet. And I don't know the area enough yet. So I don't want to take that risk yet. But when I get my feet on the ground there and I have my property, then I might do that as the next step. You know what I mean? And every 2 years, maybe I can move and do it that way as well. Because there's many ways to skin a cat in this scenario.
So it looks like the community has also helped, like Late Start Wealth, who is in Florida and he's house hacking, but he said I'm moving out of my house next month to an apartment so I can rent the house and save faster to buy another REI investment. Charles McCune is asking, so a HELOC, putting debt on paid off in order to buy more rentals, is something you would do? I don't know if that's a question for all of us.
We'll start with Nick because it sounds like he agreed with it. But
so he's saying the house is already paid off and he's going to spend a HELOC to buy another investment, right? Is that the question? Okay, the way he worded it was, I wasn't sure.
I think so. Yeah, we can go with that.
I think you should. You know what I mean? Because you probably can't refi your loan because it's probably a good percent if you've had it for a long time. And you never want, I personally think you're never going to want to refi anything under 3% in your life. And you're never going to want to pay it off. You're going to want to go the maximum you could do. So I would definitely, but under caveats. Again, is it like a BRRRR where you are fixing it up and you could refinance the cash and close that HELOC loan? Is it something where the cash flow of the duplex or quadplex or whatever you're building is going to be able to pay off that loan and refinance out, because you're making it better or bigger? Cap rates, if it's something bigger and you're able to refi the money out. But I do not want any HELOCs out for longer than 6 months personally. Are you building an ADU on the property and you're going to fund that? And then once that ADU's there, boom, I'm refining it all out and closing my HELOC, and I know I'll cash flow because I've already looked at all the rents in terms of that. So those are things like I would really think about, because it's not wasted money, but it's, again, if you it is wasted money if you want to build and grow. If you're comfortable where you're at and you have a great life, then why even bother with all the work? You don't have to do that. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
It's the strategy my brother used. Paid off house, took out a HELOC, buy rental, paid off till he got to 10. And the difference between my brother and me is he had, like Charles does, chunky money. I had a low wage, steady income, lots of overtime. Paychecks were pretty consistent. I knew what my budget was. My brother ran a tree service. So when there was a massive storm, he'd make another 80 grand in like a weekend. So he knew he could take out a HELOC and then bank on the weather, basically taking care of it within a year or two. I would never want a HELOC if I didn't think I could pay it off before the rate adjusted. And sometimes HELOCs rates are fixed for 10 years. Great. Can you pay it off in 10 years? If you had to make minimum payments, what would happen in 10 years? So I've never used the strategy. I didn't want HELOCs because I was still buying in a way in growth mode where my credit score mattered. And your credit utilization can have a massive impact on your score. And if you have a HELOC, let's say they say you can have $100,000 and you're not using any of it, you use like 10,000 for something, you have a 10% credit utilization ratio on that loan. And when they close the HELOC, it instantly goes to a 100% credit utilization for that loan amount that you have outstanding on it. They don't make you call it. They don't have to pay it off really quick. You can't borrow anymore. But whatever you've borrowed is at 100%. So I never wanted to be in a position where I had a HELOC I couldn't pay off quickly. So with 4 or 5 paid off, Charles, I would probably look at my overall loan to value of the portfolio. And instead of a HELOC, I would look at 30-year fixed rate debt. How much can I borrow at less than 50% loan to value to each property or to the portfolio to get the best interest rates? What debt level are you comfortable with? In growth mode, I wanted 70%. So in your case, I would have wanted more like 4 with mortgages and 1 paid off. In retirement, I want around a 50% loan to value, and I'm under that. So my next purchase is probably going to be with my VA loan, 100% levered. With 4 or 5 paid off, fixed rate debt, don't go over 50% loan to value, and only if it is to add to the assets. It could be value add. It could be adding bedrooms, adding closets to dens, or fencing a yard to, whatever you can do to increase the value, or it could be buying the next rental property.
Yeah, even to piggyback on that, all HELOCs are not created equal. So you really need to look at the terms. When I did my HELOC, it was during COVID, and first 6 months were 0%. And then obviously they go by the Fed prime rate and it could adjust. And so when I bought my property, did some fixer uppers, we did ADU, boom, closed it, refinanced, got a great deal, and no issues there. So every HELOC is different, every bank. We went to a credit union, like Dion says, shop around, you know what I mean? I have a great lender, but other than that, it's always okay to shop around, read the terms in detail, because they'll always cheat you. They might try to charge you for home insurance, like separate. There's a lot of little things with those HELOCs you got to be careful about. So just read the fine print. If you don't know, ask somebody like, someone who's experienced with getting HELOCs, and they'll help you out.
I've never heard you touch on this too much, Dion, maybe, but this is something I've been thinking about. And, I think for a long period of time, people were like, get out of the house early, become independent, get on with your life kind of thing, get out of your parents' home. But I think in Hawaii, I'm seeing more people, or even for me, that's really what helped me in a sense, moving back home, renting out my place financially, but is pushing kind of staying at home longer, stacking cash, getting in a better position to start investing. So what is your thoughts on that, maybe?
Oh, can I say this without being sarcastic and actually convey what I really think? This is not an attack on anyone who I know who takes care of their kids. It's nice to be nice to family, but you didn't choose your family. I have a sister I haven't talked to since 2004. We're fine with it. She lives 1,000 feet from my brother David, who I see twice a week. Like, still haven't seen her since 2004. I'm going to make a statement. Take a note, because this is going to make some people not like me.
I'll write this down. Hold on.
If you didn't want to move out of your house at or before the age of 18, and or your kids don't want to move out of the house at or before the age of 18, you have absolutely failed as a human being. I moved out at 15, and my parents were great. I got along with both of them, had a great relationship. But independence, stability, being a person, being on your own, to me, is way more important than saving money by staying with family. When you stay with family, it's their house, their rules. And if you're okay with their rules, every single one, and you contribute, maybe. But my experience, all of my kids were moved out by the time they were 18. One of them at 17. Yeah, it was like, happy 18th birthday. Here's a restraining order. And it wasn't because we didn't get along. I get along with my kids great. But had they wanted to stay, I would have failed as a human. So yeah, some people are doing it and in a really high cost of living area. Sure. But move out of your parents' house and move to a low cost of living area. Get on your feet, figure out how things work. That's my opinion on it.
No, that's why we love you. Nick, any thoughts on that?
I got a difference of opinion on that.
Mm-hmm. It's
Well,
okay.
Right
That's
here.
good.
But I have some things I liked about it. The ending, especially, you talked about moving to a different area for one. Too many people are stuck where they're at, where they're like, there's nowhere, I can't afford it here. Well, there's tons of places you can't afford it. That is the biggest excuse I hear from anyone. I'm like, even people that work remote, sometimes I'm like, I have a friend who works remote, not going to name names, but I'm like, why are you living here? You could go buy a house. I've traveled a lot of the country with my family, and I just don't understand why they stay in a place that is going to make it hard to purchase a house when you could go to really any city across the country, most part, and you just go further and further out and you'll find your price range. You'll find your ability to stay somewhere. So I think it's possible for that. My other part, though, is I want my kids to stay with me for a little while because I want them to build. And I want them to build with me. So I, as they get jobs and their responsibilities, whether it's college or entrepreneurship, I will be collecting part of their checks if they're willing to stay. And I'm going to help them build a real estate and Bitcoin community where they will continue to grow. And then as soon as they can, that first house hack, once they have that first amount of money, they will be moving to that. So it will be temporary. They got to, like I said.
How old are your kids, Nick?
Right now, I got 14, 10, and 9.
All right, talk to me when they're 22.
Okay, well, so my belief, so there is a point where I believe my goal is for them that like by 22 they should already be starting their house hacking as well. I'm not just a Bitcoin maxi. I do believe that there's other options as well. So for me, I want their checks, and I'm going to help them get that first property, their duplex, because that's probably the easiest one to get, but anything 2 through 4, and they're going to start that. And my boys are really 9 and 10. So my hope is to get a triplex or quadplex, and boom, they already got their own spots, and they will understand. And whether it's the first one together.
And you live in California, right?
I live in the
and their teachers are going to indoctrinate them into landlords are evil. It's economic violence to own more than one house. And so a duplex is owning 2 at the same time. I was the same thing. I had the same hopes and plans. And then your daughter comes home with ACAB tattooed all over her legs and arms. And capitalists are evil. And owning stocks means somebody else is losing money. And getting rich is evil. You will see this in between 15 and 22. Hopefully they snap out of it.
That's kids are different. You never know how they're going to end up. So I don't want to be specific, but I do my best, kind of like the landlord does, where he really takes them out to the properties and teaches them. I don't know how his kids are shaping up with those, but I talk to them about Bitcoin. I read to them about it. I talk to them about real estate. They went to all the properties we bought, the ADU as we were billing them. I talked to them about the contractor and everything else that goes in between. And you could only provide a roadmap that they could follow if they like. And if they wanted to move out that first day, that's fine for them. But I'm going to just share with them, this is what I believe you need to do. Again, no sacrifice, no reward. So either you sacrifice some freedoms to live with your parents and build, or you want those freedoms right away, and you're going to sacrifice maybe more time or energy to get your first duplex or whatever you're doing. So again, like I said, I don't think he's completely wrong. I would just maybe adjust it for the first little bit after they graduate high school. Hopefully we could come together for a little bit of time to build something to where at least I know you'll have a property that makes money for the rest of your life. And again, I'm a Bitcoin guy, but I love both. I see benefits in both.
When you were 18, how many people do you think were in their 40s that were well off that wanted to help you? Like mentally help you at least? Because it was significantly more than any of us will ever know.
Yeah.
But at 18, we knew everything and they were dumb and old and they're going to be okay boomer, even though you're not a boomer. That's what they're going to say to you. I hope with all my heart that what you plan works. I really do, because it does happen. There are parents who bring their kids up and they start a successful life. It's probably less than 2%. Between 20 to 35, most of us just make mistakes. I made more than pretty much everyone I know. And I know I had wealthy family friends that were trying to tell me pretty much the same stuff.
I didn't have that, honestly. My dad owned a construction company. My mom owned a car maintenance place. They were divorced. They weren't together. So it's not like they were working as a team. And we didn't really have a lot of money growing up as I did. So my dad just wanted me to go to college, which I did. I don't remember really being indoctrinated ever in college, but it seems like things have changed mightily since then. And that's a shame, because even myself, I'm a Christian. I teach world religions in my history class, but no one really knows unless they, stalk my YouTube page or something. But I don't mix the lines, blur the lines. And I totally agree with what you're saying. I hope, all you can do as a parent too is just what we're doing with these people here. You try to give them a guidelines, you give them some ideas that could get them off zero, and they're going to decide whether or not that's the direction they want to go. And maybe they'll come back later and want to do that. My older daughter, I could see her just be like, no, I'm out of here and I'm going to do whatever I want. I don't know. But again, you're allowed to do all that. That's what adulting is. Sometimes you learn through the fire. And, unfortunately for me, I just wanted to have a safe home. My dad whipped my butt all the time. It wasn't, let's just say it wasn't pleasant, you know what I mean? But he was a great dad, but he was old school, so.
I think this brought up a lot of great comments. Sorry folks, I have about 10 minutes left. So if you have more comments, shoot it in the chat. But Jason, coming from Dion channel, that said, I think that's dead on, Dion. The people I know whose kids stayed past 18, 19, if they were not in school, stayed there until 30 or more. J6 says, I could not agree more with Dion. See the effects of parents failing their kid, both in my company and in military. The future is not looking pretty.
Dion, do you have your phone near you? I want to send you a meme. I think you'd laugh.
I do. My phone's up here for chat, but apparently one of my kids is watching this and I'm getting some interesting text right now. I should read.
Oh, send you a meme? Will you be able to check it or no? If I send you a meme, will you be able to check it right now?
I will.
Yeah. Okay. And then Flabulous Mama says, as a special education teacher, not all of us are the problem. Yes, there are a bunch of teachers that are the problem, but not all of us. I see more parents failing their children than helping them. Yeah, I think I agree.
So here's my take on the problem with teachers. We don't have left-wing teachers and right-wing teachers. We have really good neutral teachers and batshit crazy left-wing teachers. So the indoctrination doesn't happen because the neutral teachers like Nick, they don't know my political beliefs or my religious beliefs unless they've stalked me outside of the classroom. That's great. But they're not being exposed to anybody who's saying, you should be saying the Pledge of Allegiance in class. You should not celebrate the death of somebody else who died because of their political beliefs. Like, they're not saying that. So they only get the rhetoric of one side. So the indoctrination is almost 100%. Because it's neutral or left.
Are we talking teachers or late night talk show hosts or something?
Oh, I work with a group of teachers that are. I just sent him something. I want to get his reaction.
So we should have that conversation offline sometime because I'm happy to debate that. And I'll
No,
run.
no, I just messed with
This is
you.
what I'm gonna actually. We're on your channels. I don't want to mess that up. I was gonna say something that will cost me 1,000 subscribers right now.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely! I got a statement, a truth statement that will cost 1,000 people to unsubscribe from my channel.
Don't do that.
I
But
don't
I
want to do
sent
it on
him.
yours, Mark.
I sent him a Pink Panther meme right now that I thought was pretty funny.
It's
'Cause it's
cute. It's
Panther
funny.
one that he
I don't know if you can see it from the screen, but
Can you show it or no?
am I willing to accept Jesus into your heart? Well,
I sent
I'm
him a
willing
Pink
to lose
Panther
1,000
that says, "Are you
subscribers
willing
for
to
my
accept
beliefs. I
Jesus?"
don't want to cost Mark any.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Not yet.
Mark's only got 1,000, but I thought it was just funny, anyways. By the way, you should subscribe to all three of us, especially.
Yeah, you know, we have
on here
fun.
on
We
the
can
bottom.
disagree. We can agree, but I think that's the number one thing. And I like doing this. Dion, with bigger pockets next week. Is it next week?
It's next week. I head out Saturday, so Caesar's Palace, Las Vegas. I'll be there from Saturday to Friday. There'll be LobbyCon next weekend at Caesar's Palace, and then after, because the event is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then I'll be there Wednesday, Thursday too.
I think too. You mentioned something about the teachers. I'm going to just. There is some truth to the thing. A lot of it's subject matter too. A lot of English teachers could be a little bit more, a certain way, and then depending on your subject could change. So it can be challenging. I don't know. I have a lot of conservative friends as well. So I don't know. I think teachers get a bad rap on it because of some really bad outliers, and that's a shame. But like anything, there's going to be bad cops, bad pilots, bad whatever, a small percentage of them. And hopefully not a large one. But like I said, I haven't been to college since I went, but I never heard anything really about politics other than my social science classes. But even then, there was never a unprofessionalism. But there is today a lot of unprofessionalism all around. So I get it.
Sorry, Charles is asking me where my other cup is that he sent me. Okay, I'll use that on my next recording with Zuber. Then I'll use that, Charles. Anything else you guys want to wrap things up with? I think this was a good one. It was a lot of fun.
There's a couple of people asking me to send my factual statement. I might do that in a members only or a course call or something.
I'm not trying to get you in trouble.
Or just on my channel. I'll do it at the end of my next video and I'll go, yep, this is going to cost me 1,000 subscribers.
No. I just wanted to, I'm just going to Pink Panther you from now on the other way.
There you go.
Nick, anything else you want to wrap it up with? Or I mean,
just want to go back to some of the key points. If someone is talking to you like Dion, you have a strategy, kind of get to know them better. That's a great philosophy and idea. And for me, maybe you want to just see how serious they are. But no matter what, the concepts are still the same. You're going to have to work, whether it's learning, whether it's networking, whether it's cutting some things out, whether it's making more money. And then you could decide from there your next steps. But you do have 4 quick steps you're going to need to do no matter what you're doing.
Harrison Trade Better 99 wants to bring up the Asian community, but he says, as someone who moved out at 27, I was able to get a place with a higher savings and thankfully able to contribute to mine and my wife's family. Gotta love Asian families.
Well, like I said, I agree with the premise of what Dion said. I think maybe I would want to do like a 4-year college. Like I want to teach them a little bit more. You know what I mean? You've guided them through there. I hope they give me an opportunity to teach them more real life house hacking, dollar cost averaging, covered calls, just some things. And I hope that I model my life by how I treat people, but also by your net worth. Because that's also, like this guy's doing well. Dad's doing pretty well now. Maybe I'm going to listen to one or a few things. Not everything, how kids are, but maybe they'll listen to 1 or 2 things. And I know when my dad talked to me, I listened a lot, even though he, suffered from alcoholism, but he was sober for 25 years before he passed away. But when he talked, I listened. It wasn't always nice to say the least, but I did listen. And I'm hoping I plant that same seed.
All right, everyone. Just want to remind you, it is Frank, old guy REI's birthday today. So go send him a happy birthday and best wishes. Thank you guys for doing this. It's always fun. And go have a great rest of the weekend.